Me and my boys went to summer camp about a week ago, and I was just getting all my stuff back together, bringing it home, and I just wanted to show everybody some of the stuff I brought to summer camp. Sorry I didn't do any videos at summer camp. I actually forgot my camera at home. So I tested out my Goodwill stove at summer camp one time. That was a simple design. Worked really well. Just for boiling water mostly. It was a little hot for anything else. A little overpowering. However, the individual candle holder made for a nice simmer when I was trying to do a small boil, but the thing I brought along to put this on was a little wide for the cup, so I didn't have a real good small type holder for that, so it didn't work really well for me trying to do a little cup, so I had to put it on some rocks to boil a small cup of water in there for coffee. I did bring a billy pot, a Boy Scout billy pot summer camp. You know, you got to have one of those if you're going to Boy Scout camp. So it's a little tight fitting, but there's nothing in there, so I brought that along. I use that a lot at summer camp. It just seemed to be appropriate. I brought a nice little one egg Wonder toaster. I might even still have a little bit of egg in there, sorry, but that really worked out well. It's a little steamer where you can get some water boiling in the bottom and place an egg in there and then lid it off, and it steams the top of it, gives you an over easy looking egg that if you use oil, I found out, it just slides right out, but if you don't use oil, it tends to get a little sticky in there. So even though it's a non-stick skillet, but I brought that along. I did cut the handle back so that I can use this on here without having it be one-sided heavy. Also, I brought along my UFO stove, which I always kind of bring along just because it gets a lot of attention. That's one method of cooking with it right there. In fact, actually, I'll move that aside. This is one method of cooking with it right there. And the other method is, I think I've showed this before, is you flip that over, put that back down in there, that becomes your fuel reservoir. That fits in there pretty good when you pound it in. And then you flip this over inside of here, and that becomes your wick to get the fuel out of there. And you get a rather large flame out of that. In fact, this stand then becomes almost too close because when you put a pot on top of there, the flames is just shooting all the way out the side for this pot. But that's the two-sized device that I made about a year ago that closes up into a little UFO, and put that right inside there and drill that down, and it seals up. It does not hold liquid inside here because this is not a perfect seal, so if you fill more than the amount of the lid there, it actually spills over the edge. So, but it always gets a little tension. And then I brought along my grease pot with this, and that's what I was using most of the time actually on top of this. With this, that's what I ended up using. But this is also was being used with the indestructible fence post cap stove, which you guys have seen in a video or two before this. And this thing is literally indestructible. The lid fits it perfectly. I bet you this is probably still moist. No, not really. I thought it might still have a little moisture in there, but I burned it out. I usually burn it all the way out so it doesn't have anything sitting in there. And then a little moisture in there, and you open that up, and that's the stove. And you guys have all seen that in another video. So that's really nice. And then while I was out there, I showed off another stove that I've had for years, and that would be my choke hazard from Miniable Design. I think it was the original choke hazard, and that is this one here with the hose that comes out, and of course there's the wick in there, and the hose goes in one side, and the hose then goes into a remote feed that has to sit up on top of something just to raise it just a little bit. so that the steel feeds into this one. And they're a little wobbly, and it needs a much smaller hose, but then it wouldn't feed very well. So when I brought this out, and everybody was like, well, why don't you make one of these indestructible type things, but only this size, since that's an awesome little simmer, and but you got to constantly fill it with this. Somebody said, well, why don't you just put one of these little hoses on the end of here like this, and then you can squeeze fill it. Or instead of using this that has this hole in the side of it like this, they said, why don't you make one of those indestructible ones? And I said, well, I gotta get a fence post that's smaller than this thing. And they said, well, they make them smaller than that. So I went to the hardware store, and sure enough, they make another size just a little bit smaller. So they've got that size and that size. And they've actually got one that's bigger. So there's 3 sizes. There's this, and there's a bigger one. And I thought the bigger one was, you're starting to get awful heavy. This is not real heavy. It's potted aluminum, I think. I'm not really sure the terminology, but it's like a potted aluminum, so it's not real heavy. But this one's getting a little heavier. And I figured if you went to the big one, you might be getting out of the range of an alcohol stove at that point. You're starting to get into something that's putting off flames like this with this thing inside of it. They're really big, and they're great for boiling something fast, but a little obnoxious for the little alcohol stove. So I was thinking small term, and this is pretty neat. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this off of here, just like I did on this one, and put a nipple on it and a hose, and have myself basically 2 alcohol stoves, one small and one big. And they don't look like they'll fit inside of each other because the nipple does go in there a little bit. So it wouldn't work anyway because the nipple would be sticking out of this one. I was thinking about transportation, but because the nipple is going to stick out of the one and out of the other, it's pretty much a sure thing that it's not going to fit inside there. All the way anyway. It can fit like this. Oops, excuse me. But anyways, I'm going to build one more of these indestructible stoves. And of course, after I build it, the challenge is always to find something that will fit on there like a cap, like this, to keep it from leaking all over your pack. And you know, the Play-Doh on this one is awesome. So now I just need to find. Oh, I was almost lucky. I thought maybe the inside of it, or the inside of the Play-Doh lid would fit it, but a little loose. So just have to find some kind of lid that fits on that now for that one once I build it. So that'll be my next project. Anyways, I haven't done a video in a while. I just wanted to show you some of the stuff I take to summer camp when I go to summer camp with the Scouts, just to goof around. Most of the meals are prepared by the kids, so all the cooking I did was just horseplay, extra little snacks throughout the day from me while the kids were out earning their merit badges at summer camp. Alright, that's all I have for today. Everybody take care.